election and a busy night for us. A town hall with the former president airing later tonight on Spanish language television. And just a short time ago, Vice President Harris was interviewed on Fox. Speaking with Bret Baier, the vice president was asked about a number of hot button issues for conservative leaning voters, including the border, and was asked once again what makes her different than Joe Biden.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
The interview followed a campaign rally in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania, the vice president appearing with notable Republicans who've endorsed her. One of those Republicans joins us now, former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. He's now a CNN political commentator. Also with us is Michaela Carr, former chief of staff to Kevin McCarthy, and CNN political commentator Jonah Goldberg, co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Dispatch. This interview is all about appealing to Republican voters who may be disenchanted with President Trump. So we have three Republicans with us. Jeff, how important was it for the vice president to distance herself from President Biden? And do you think she did a good job?
Well, I think we first got to start off. She dove into the deep end of the pool with Fox News and Bret Baier, and she did extremely well. She answered the questions on message. And, look, the Republicans she's trying to track down right now at this point in the campaign are not the Republicans she's going to flip from Trump to herself. She's just trying to flip those Republicans that weren't going to show up and vote and just sit on the couch. I think they heard a message today that was consistent, and they were able to figure out, do they want somebody who's more liberal than they are, or somebody who lies to them every day? And I think at the end of the day, more Republicans that sit in the middle are going to flock towards somebody that they can legislatively work with that's more liberal, but doesn't lie to them every time he opens his mouth.
Jonah, I want to get your overall impression of just how you think this did or did not appeal to any, persuadable Republicans. I do want to, before that, just play sort of this back and forth they had over the Biden-Harris record on immigration and border security.
Looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Yes, ma'am. May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
you
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up
I'm
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people.
How do you think she dealt with that and Jonah overall?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think she dealt with. I think that was one of her shakier moments. I think that moment, as well as the entire interview, is really kind of a Rorschach test for a lot of people. If you went in thinking, negatively about Kamala Harris, you came out feeling like your priors were confirmed. If you went in thinking positively about her, you thought your priors were confirmed. If you didn't like Bret Baier or Fox News, ditto, right? And I think she could have had a better answer on the substance. At the same time, I'm not sure that the answer that she gave is going to move a single voter in any significant regard. It sounded like she knew what she was talking about to people who don't pay a lot close attention to this or are not deeply bought into it. And it sounded like she didn't to people who are on the other side of the argument. I think the dueling interruption stuff probably helped her because, I know this shocks you, Anderson, but a lot of normal voters don't like the media these days. And it's not just like the mainstream liberal media, it's the media and politicians pushing back and not taking guff from reporters. Even Bret Baier, who I thought was in his rights asking the question, probably plays well for her, plays tough, it probably plays well to the voters that are gettable for her. So I think I understand why we're talking about it. I don't think that necessarily 3 days from now, I mean, if you look on Twitter, you would think the campaign's over for either Trump or Harris, and I think those reactions are all ridiculous.
Michaela, how do you think she did? I mean, do you think this interview could win over some Nikki Haley voters on the margins?
So it's interesting. I don't think that when you're looking at who she was trying to reach here, right? The voters who are diehard Republicans, she wasn't trying to go to them. She was trying to see if there was anybody in the middle worthy and able to still persuade. And what we see from the polls is that those people that are undecided, the 2% in some states, the 6% in other states that are honestly undecided, they're undecided because they care about policies. They want to hear more details and more specifically on what she's going to do about the border and immigration and the economy. And we didn't hear any specifics. To Jonah's point just now, it sounded like she knew what she was talking about if you're not really paying attention, but her inability this far into the game to say how she would differentiate herself from Joe Biden, which is the ultimate question when you're trying to be a change candidate. I think she ultimately did more harm than good by doing that interview.
Jeff, I want to play the moment when Trump's enemy from within remarks came up. Let's watch.
Well, he's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. But think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
he was asked about that
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and
I'm
respect
telling
to
you,
you,
that's the question that we asked him.
you didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times.
I mean, Brett Baier did not actually show the clip where he actually does talk about the enemy within, so it was an interesting choice that they made in that. The vice president was correct. I mean, Harris Faulkner played for Trump the clip of his enemy within. Harris Faulkner actually played that clip for the former president, then asked him, Mr. President, Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked. Power is in our future. What do you say about that? And Trump actually doubled down on this, so let's watch.
It is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick.
Again, interesting choice by Fox not to actually play that part of the answer. But CNN is also reporting that Fox News did not disclose that the female audience it selected for was billed as an all-women town hall was packed with local Trump Republican supporters. But I'm wondering what you made of how Harris handled herself in that moment, Jeff.
Well, first of all, that's just classic Donald Trump. I mean, just say something absolutely unhinged and then try to back away from it as needed. But look, I mean, is he talking about a governor that maybe doesn't go his way? Is he talking about a witness who testifies against him? Is he talking about a legislator who votes against his agenda? Is he talking about a lieutenant governor that doesn't call a special session to usurp democracy? I mean, this is what he's referring to. And to me, it's unimaginable to think that we're even in this point. But we are, and we've got to fight hard down the finish line to get Kamala Harris into the White House. Not because I agree with her policies, but because she's the best next step for America. I got to spend a bunch of time around Kamala Harris today. I got to have a private meeting with her. I got to listen to somebody talk to a bunch of Democrat or Republicans and be able to have a real conversation about consensus. I was able to thank her for making it easier for people like me. She's doing the fundraising. She's performing well in debates. She's answering the questions. She's doing the interviews. This is unhinged from Donald Trump, and we cannot let him have another hall pass to destroy this country. He's already destroyed the party. Let's not give him a chance to destroy the country.
All right, everybody stay with us. We're going to have more on this coming up.